Hello, Econ students. Let's talk concept 6.2 and 6.3. We've been looking at international exchange, and we talked about the balance of payments, which really just talks about the balance between goods and services and financial assets that are being transacted between nations every single day. Now, what we're going to talk about is the money that's changing hands. Whenever you go to another nation and you have American dollars on you, you have to convert that currency over to, say, a euro or a yen or a yuan, right? You have to convert that over. So you give them American dollars. They say these dollars are worth this many euros, for example, and they give you those euros in return. And sometimes you gain buying power through that, and sometimes you lose buying power through that, depending on whether or not the American dollar has appreciated or depreciated in value relative to that other currency. And that has vast macroeconomic effects. So that's what we're going to be talking about today, because even though most of us only interact with that when we go on vacation, it is true that most nations have millions and millions of these transactions, the buying and selling really of currency every single day. So let's dive in. We call this the foreign exchange market, or you'll often hear it referred to as Forex for short, right? So commonly referred to as Forex. Even on College Board, they will use the term Forex, which means the foreign exchange market, of course. So what is a foreign exchange market? Well, we know that exports and imports impact our aggregate demand, right? They shift aggregate demand to the left or to the right. We call that net exports. We also know that the balance of trade surplus, where exports are greater than imports, or trade deficit, where imports are greater than exports, we know that balance of trade is found on our balance of payment. So that's important there as well. But even more significant, well, maybe not more significant than aggregate demand, but even more significant than the balance of payments is that these exports and imports impact currency and the appreciation and depreciation of them, or the value of them. For example, let's say we demand a foreign good, let's say ham. I don't know why I use ham as an example, but we demand ham, right, from another nation. We're going to import that ham. Well, in order to get that ham, we have to purchase it. When we purchase it, we give American dollars for it, right? Normally, we just click a button on the internet. That's how I do all my purchasing. We click a button, and our currency goes into the ether. Now, normally we think it just shows up in their account, but what actually happens is that our currency is exchanged for their currency. So if this is a Brazilian ham, for example, then American dollars will be provided. Those American dollars will be transformed or exchanged into Brazilian real, and they will get that currency in their account, right? So that exchange happens. So really, when I demand the ham, there's an outflow of currency and I exchange it for the Royale. So I actually demand their currency. Did you catch that? So when I demand their good, I also demand their currency. So the demand for the British Royal, or sorry, not British, the Brazilian Royale, the demand for that is going to go up, which means in order to get those, I have to supply more American dollars. So supply of the American dollar is going to go up. Yes, the value or the price of currency relative to other currency, that price is set in a market with supply and demand because, of course, it is, right? So anytime you demand more exports, or I'm sorry, you demand more imports, you're going to demand more of that currency. Anytime other firms or other nations, I should say, demand American goods, they're going to demand more American currency. And if you keep that straight, you'll get most of these Forex questions correct. There's a lot of nuance to it, but that's really the gist of it. So, what is happening to the demand for currency? Let's say the United States sells cars to Mexico. What's going to happen to the demand for the US currency? Well, Mexico is buying our cars, so they demand more American cars. When they demand more American cars, they're also going to demand more American dollars. So they're going to increase the demand of American dollars. In other words, the demand for exports or demand for goods and the demand for the corresponding currency of that good are directly related. Let's say Mexico buys tractors from Canada. What impact is that going to have on Canadian currency? Well, if Mexico is buying tractors from Canada, then Mexico really, really wants those tractors. So they're going to demand more tractors, which means that they're going to demand more Canadian dollars or CDs. Let's say Canada sells syrup to the United States. What's going to happen to the Canadian dollar? Well, the United States demands more of the syrup. They demand more of the syrup, they're going to demand more of the currency. You should be seeing a trend here. You demand more of a good from another nation, you're going to demand more of their currency, and their currency is going to therefore appreciate. Let's say Japan is buying fireworks from the United States. Well, when Japan buys fireworks from the US, they're going to demand more American dollars because they demand more fireworks. In order to get those fireworks, they have to supply Japanese yen, exchange those for American dollars to buy the fireworks, right? So the demand for the American dollar is going to rise. Okay, we put all these into something called the foreign exchange market. Here's the what of it. A foreign exchange market is where literally trillions of dollars, I think it's, yeah, 4 trillion. I wrote it down. $4 trillion are exchanged daily between different currencies, right? In fact, central banks, this is kind of a sidebar, but central banks participate in the buying and selling of currency constantly, right? So they will literally just buy and sell currency, not to buy and sell goods, but just to buy and sell currency. So that is happening all of the time. The way that the foreign exchange market works is it examines the price of one currency relative to the price of another currency, right? So the American dollar has an exchange rate that shows the American dollar relative to the euro, but it has another exchange rate that shows the American dollar relative to the Mexican peso. And it has another exchange rate that shows the American dollar to the Japanese yen or the Chinese yuan. In fact, every currency has a market with every other currency in the world. Super complex. The good news is we're only going to look at one interaction between two nations at any given time for AP Macro. There you go. So this is how we would say it. It would be $1 equals 2 euro. You can think of this as like a price for the euro, right? So how much does it cost to get 2 euro? It's going to cost $1. Or for 1 euro, it's going to cost 50 American cents. Those two things say the same thing. They're just from different perspectives, right? So, hey, I'm from Europe. I want to buy $1 American. That's going to cost you 2 euro. Hey, I'm from America. I want to buy 1 euro. That's going to cost you 50 cents. So the same exchange rate has two different interpretations depending on the perspective. Okay. All right. This is just fun. This is the highest exchange rates that the United States has with the rest of the world. So $1 costs 32,362 Iranian reals. So that's crazy. And then on the other side of it, one Kuwaiti dinar will cost you $3.27, right? But notice on each side, you have two different interpretations depending on the perspective. To buy $1, it costs 32,362 Iranian rial. To buy one Iranian rial, it's going to cost you 0.000031 Iranian or US dollars, right? So that's how the exchange rate works. There's always two interpretations. Don't stumble on it. If you want to correct for the other side, just set one side equal to the other and correct for it. All right. There are two types of change in value. There are appreciation and depreciation. We've talked about these a little bit, but it's all relative, right? So $1 has to appreciate relative to another dollar. It is incorrect to say that the American dollar has appreciated, right? That's just not true because there are hundreds of currencies out there. So it is appreciated relative to what, right? So maybe it's appreciated relative to the peso, but is depreciated relative to the euro. Both of those things can be true because they're two different markets. So it's always in comparison to other currencies. So let's say $2 per euro now costs $4 per euro. What's happened? Well, the dollar has weakened compared to the euro, right? It now costs me extra money to get 1 euro. So the American dollar is weaker than it was before, which sounds often referred to weaker or stronger. If the dollar is weakened, or if it costs more dollars to buy 1 euro, we call that depreciation. The value has depreciated for that currency. But on the other side, the euro has actually appreciated, right? For 1 euro, hold on, somebody's on. There we go. For one, we're back. For 1 euro, you can now get $4 American. That's way better. Or for 0.25 of a euro, you can get $1 American. So the euro has strengthened or appreciated relative to the dollar, which brings us to an important point. If you know that one currency is appreciated, then you know that the other currency is depreciated because it's always relative to the other currency. All right. So let's say we have the value of gold. 1 gold equals 5 silver. We're just taking the currencies out of it. So this is silver per gold, also called the silver price in gold. Also, the value of a gold and silver. All of those are different phrases that College Board could use to say the same thing. What's the value of 1 silver? Well, if the value of 1 gold is 5 silver, then the value of gold per silver, or gold price in silver, or the value of a silver in gold, the other's perspective, is how much? Well, of course, it's going to be 1/5. So if the value of 1 gold is 5 silver, then the value of 1 silver is 1/5 of a gold. Now, what if 1 gold goes from 5 silver to 2 silver? What has happened? Well, the value of gold fell. Catch that? 1 gold buys less silver than it did before. And so it is valued less. What do we call that? We call that depreciation. What about on the flip side? Well, the value of 1 silver is now what? How many gold? Well, if 1 gold equals 2 silver, then 1 silver equals the reciprocal of that, or a half of a gold. Get my face out of the way there. That means the value of silver has risen relative to gold, which means that it's stronger, so it has appreciated in value. Cool, cool, cool. What if 1 gold turns to 10 silver? What's that mean? Well, if the value of 1 gold is now 10 silver, then the value of 1 silver is now 1/10. So the value, I'm sorry, I thought that was the next animation. I got mixed up. So the value of 1 gold is 10 silver, then the value of gold rose. It went from 5 silver to 10 silver. 1 gold buys more silver than it did before. In other words, gold is stronger relative to silver. We call that appreciation. On the flip side, one value of silver, or the value of 1 silver, is now 1/10 of a gold. If it's 1/10 of a gold, the value of silver has actually gone down. It went from 1/5 of a gold to buying 1/10 of a gold. So if the value of silver, it says rose, it should say went down. If the value of silver goes down, it has depreciated in value. Okay, so check these out. These are reciprocals of one another. 1 US dollar equals 107.32 yen, or 1 yen equals 0.0093, blah, 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 all the way down there. So, which of these currencies are at equilibrium? What do you think? Can you tell? The answer is all of them, right? Because the equilibrium of these currencies is set through demand and supply. So, every single one of these is in equilibrium. We're going to show you that next. The appreciation and depreciation have to do with the change of the exchange rate, not the current exchange rate. So if I'm looking at these, I don't have enough information to say if they've appreciated or depreciated. They have to change, like we just did with gold and silver. You have to say, hey, 1 US dollar went from 107.32 yen to 50 yen. What happened? Well, the American dollar got stronger because, I'm sorry, the American dollar got weaker because it buys less yen. And so it is depreciated relative to the yen, which means the yen has appreciated relative to the dollar. That's the logic there. Okay. So, what happens if you need more dollars to buy 1 euro, or the price for a euro increases? That's another way to say that. Well, if we go from $3 for 2 euros to $6 for 2 euros, what's happened? Well, the American dollar has actually depreciated relative to the euro, which means that the euro has, drumroll, appreciated relative to the American dollar. So, for those of you who like definitions, there it is: loss of a value of a country's currency with respect to a foreign currency. Or, in other words, more units of dollars are needed to buy a single unit of the other currency. Those are your definitions of depreciation. Oh, and we use the term weaker. The dollar has weakened relative to the euro. Okay, let's look at the other side of it. What if we go from $3 to get 2 euros to $1 to get 2 euros? It actually costs us less to buy the same amount of euros. What's happening? Well, the American dollar has appreciated relative to the euro, which means the euro has depreciated relative to the dollar. Appreciation is the increase of a value of a country's currency with respect to a foreign currency. There you go. There's a definition again. Or fewer units of dollars are needed to buy a single unit of another currency. The dollar is considered stronger. Okay, we'll actually skip this. We need to move on. Concept 6.3 is a foreign exchange market. And this will be really quick and then we'll be done. The foreign exchange market looks like this. It's got supply and demand. Two nations are involved in every single transaction. So normally you will see these side by side graphs, or you'll be given a one graph, but you'll know what the other nation is. If you demand more of another currency, you have to supply more of your currency. That is a golden rule of the foreign exchange market. If I'm buying more Japanese exports, right, I'm importing more Japanese goods, then I have to supply more American dollars, right? So if their demand is going up, my supply is going up. If their demand or my demand for their currency is going down, then my supply has to go down. That's the idea. They move in the same direction. So they're simultaneous shifts. Let's take a look at it. So on our Y to the sky axis, the price, sorry, go back a little bit. You're going to work for me. There we go. Okay. On my foreign exchange market, I want to highlight something here. Up here is the actual value or the price of the currency. But instead of it just being P, it's in terms of the currency, right? So here, this is the market for American dollars, and this is the market for euros. So for the market for American dollars, we're going to do the price of American dollars in euros. So euros over dollars. So this will be €1 per dollar. This might be €2 per dollar. And this might be €3 per dollar as it goes up. So it's euros per dollar. I always say it's foreign over domestic, or FORDOM. Foreign over domestic will give you your correct label for this one. So for American dollars, the foreign currency is the euro. So it's euro over my domestic currency, which is the dollar, FORDOM. Like Fordham University in New York. Great university, gold star. Let's say that, we'll close that out. Let's say that the American dollar appreciated, demand shifted to the right. When demand shifted to the right, we have to pay more euros for $1 American, or they have to pay more euros for $1 American, right? So the American dollar has gone up in value, which means it has appreciated. In order to get those American dollars, though, the European nations have to increase their supply, right? You have to give currency in order to exchange it. Like at the airport, when you're exchanging your American dollars for your big vacation, you have to give them currency to get the foreign currency back. So if I demand more American dollars, then the Europeans have to supply more European dollars. So at any time demand shifts right, supply is going to shift right. And that shows the euro. And that really is it. We'll show this over and over and over again. We'll look at a lot of different examples. That is your market. Okay, that's it for now. Do your Khan Academies, and I will see you soon. If I can get this recording to stop. All right.